Okay, welcome to the CBAP class. This is our domestic CBAP class. Today is 4/16/2026. We're going to do chapters 3, 4, and 5 in our test uh, quizzing. I'm going to ask you which knowledge area we're in, which task we're in, and then we'll do the 10-second elimination. So let's get started. Which stakeholders participate in confirming elicitation results? So which knowledge area are we in?
Elicitation. It's elicitation and collaboration.
Elicitation and collaboration. And if we are confirming elicitation results, that's confirm elicitation results, right?
Mhm.
So that's the task we're in. Stakeholders with enough authority to approve requirements, stakeholders who have participated in elicitation tasks, the BA, or the project team. Let's give it a 10 count. Okay, which one should we eliminate?
The BA.
Yep, yep. Okay, which one do we think is the correct answer?
B.
A.
B.
Okay, so the reason that it's those who have participated in the elicitation task is the people that provide the requirements are the ones that say, yes, that's what I meant. The
Exactly.
ones with authority to approve, this is the approve requirements area, not the confirm elicitation requirements. Got it?
Yep. Yep.
One of the good things about getting something wrong is it's like, oh, that's something I could learn. I know what I could learn now. You are mentoring a new business analyst in the communications arena. They are preparing for their role as facilitator for a workshop that will review requirements elicited to date for purposes of confirmation from source stakeholders. So, from that information, what task are we in?
Confirm requirement that will review requirement elicited for person. Confirm requirements.
Think we are still in confirmed elicitation results.
Yeah.
They're using the BABOK as reference for their prep. They come to you asking what business analysis information, because the BABOK says they need it as an input, but they have no idea as to what it includes. How do you define business analysis information to them? So instead of giving them the answer, you try to help them to be more resourceful for advising them to check the glossary and get back to you with further questions. You explain to them that business analysis information means all stated requirements documented to date from that group of stakeholders for review in the workshop. You tell them that business analysis information is a catch-all phrase that basically means any kind of information at any level of detail that is used as an input for or output of business analysis work. You explain to them that business analysis information means all the stated requirements documented to date from that group of stakeholders, along with their stated and documented concerns for review at the workshop. Let's give it a 10 count. Okay, can we eliminate one?
It does
A.
not.
A.
Yeah.
We would never do this to an ECBA. That's just rude. How about B? Do we like B?
No.
What's wrong with it?
It's either B or C or D. It's along the, they are preparing for workshop and requirement elicited. They are confirming requirement. I think it is B because explain to
So
them.
you think that the definition of business analysis information is all the stated requirements documented to date from that group of stakeholders for review in the workshop?
Either B or D.
I,
One
I,
sec.
I think
No.
C there,
Tell me why you like C, Cassie.
because business analysis information can be can have different format and can be presented in a different way.
Right? Okay, I've got a vote for B and a vote for C. Anybody else?
I think Cassie is
C,
right.
Charlie.
C is in Charlie.
Yeah,
Two
I
votes for
just read
C.
the C. I think it's a C. Yeah,
This is the exact definition of business analysis
yeah.
information in the Babok company, remember? Babok business analysis information is a catch-all phrase that basically means any kind of information at any level of detail that is used as an input for or output of business analysis work. So business analysis information is not only requirements, it's this stakeholder doesn't want to be emailed. This stakeholder has this particular pain point. There's a deadline that's just been announced. There's a regulatory thing that I need to check into. All those things, everything that we collect is business analysis information. When is the best time for a business analyst to specify and model requirements during the elicitation and collaboration knowledge area? Well, that's almost cheating. So you know which knowledge area it is, you know which task it is. Requirements should not be specified and modeled until after they are confirmed. Whenever it would add value to elicitation and collaboration tasks, while executing confirm elicitation results, or while preparing the business analysis information package as an input to communicate business analysis information. Let's give it a 10 count. Okay, which one should we eliminate?
The C.
And D,
Yeah,
we can
Okay, so
eliminate
we
those
don't
two.
do it here,
it's
and we
it's
don't do it
B.
here. Now, I want to remind you, specify and model literally means put it down on paper or put it in some kind of format where it's
B.
recorded.
B. It's B.
It's not A.
It's not A, it's
Are
okay,
you
let's
sure
just
it's not C?
It's
Oh, it's
B.
B. Okay. Whenever it
The
adds
BABOK
value.
specifically states that models may improve collaboration. So it's any time that
Exactly.
you can use it for collaboration or for elicitation. I very often have created process flows while I'm sitting there so that they can see that what I'm documenting. They also get the added benefit of knowing I'm listening to them. What they're saying is important enough for me to take the documentation. Let me show you what the answer to C is. This is too narrow of an answer. Requirements can be specified and modeled whenever they would add value to elicitation and collaboration tasks.
That's fair.
A business analyst wants to assess the business analysis work and plan improvement processes where necessary. Which task should be completed before attempting this activity? So before we get to which task, what task is this?
Isn't
And
it like 3 point something performance? No?
It is by
identify
performance.
business.
Isn't it performance assessment?
It's
Or not?
identify business analysis performance improvements. So this is what they want to do, and the task that has to be completed before then. So you have to know what the inputs are to identify business analysis performance improvements. It's got two inputs to it. One of those is an output of another task. So is that task plan business analysis governance, performance analysis, plan business analysis approach, or plan business analysis information management? I'll give you a 10 count. Okay, which one is it not?
Information management?
Yeah.
It is not information management. Okay,
No.
And it's not performance analysis because that's not what it's called.
that's
Yeah.
not a thing, is it? So what do we think is the correct answer?
C.
The approach.
It's a C.
What was
Yeah.
Planned business analysis approach. So the business analysis approach is an output of the planned business analysis approach task. and an input into the identified business analysis performance improvements. So I want to pause just a moment. Let's talk about what is in the business analysis approach. I'm sorry, in the planned business analysis approach. What is in there that we need to use for the identified business analysis performance improvements? What does it tell us?
Is it the assessment?
Activities.
No, the planned business analysis approach is, let me just read it to you instead of trying to explain it. It identifies the business analysis approach and activities that will be performed across the initiative, including who will perform the activities, the timing and sequencing of the work, the deliverables that will be produced, and the business analysis techniques that may be utilized. The remaining outputs of this task may be integrated into overall approach or be independent. That part doesn't matter. So basically, before we start talking about an evaluation of our work, we need to know what our target was. You know, we're going to have 15 meetings and we're going to use these techniques. And then the evaluation is, did we do these things? Right? So
Yeah.
that gives us your basis for your evaluation. That's why it's an input. I think it's really important that y'all understand the whys things are inputs and what is in the output. Because without it, it's just you're memorizing names and it's not going to tell you anything. It might help you pass the test. It's not going to help you after that. Why is it important for a business analyst to understand roles and responsibilities of the stakeholders within the organization? So when BA is trying to understand roles and responsibilities of the stakeholder, which task are we in?
Plan stakeholder engagement.
Yeah.
That's right. That's where we do it at. So why is it important to understand how the stakeholder will contribute to the initiative, the categorized stakeholder in the power interest grid, to help with the development of the racing matrix, and to understand the stakeholders' attitudes and manage them? I'm going to remind you, this is the BABOK world. It might not be exactly the way that you would do it in the real world. I'm going to give you a 10 count. Okay, which one should we eliminate?
This
Uh,
the C.
well,
Yeah.
Okay.
they're all valid. They're all valid in the real world, but in the
Yeah.
context of the question.
That's why I said this is the BABOK world.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what does the
So-
BABOK say is the correct answer?
B.
A.
Probably going to say A.
so.
Probably
Yeah.
It's a
going to be A.
lot of A's.
Yeah.
Understanding the roles and
Yeah.
responsibilities of stakeholders will help the BA understand how stakeholders will contribute to the initiative.
Can you
You
check,
would-
please, the B?
I'm happy to.
Well,
Thank
you
you.
would. That is
The
an
power
output.
interest grid is not covered in the BABOK.
Okay,
Well,
for me,
I
I would choose B.
I think
The
you're
power
thinking of
interest
cutting.
grid
You're
is a
thinking of
really
Which one is it with the power and interest? Is it
You're-
it's in change something?
You're thinking of the matrix, the onion diagram. Is it the onion diagram?
no.
The influence.
There.
Influence. Thank you.
Yeah. You're thinking of the onion diagram. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're thinking of. That's
Yeah.
probably something
Okay,
that you would do
the
in
onion
the real life.
diagram. The onion diagram is really beneficial to talk about where people fit in the project, right? I love the onion diagram. In fact, I'm teaching it in another course. The power interest grid is the one that has influence up the side and authority across the bottom. Is it authority?
I can't
Influence?
remember. It's like who has skin in the game and who do you have to manage?
Right.
And how you
And
manage
where
them.
they fall on that, in which quadrant they fall, tells you how to manage them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If
I'll
you're
find it. I'll find it and I'll drop
curious,
it in the chat.
Google it. It's really it's a nice way to visually put people into groups to help manage them. Approval of requirements and designs may be formal or informal. Which of the following tasks defines how approval or prioritization decisions are made? So this task is what I'm going to ask you. Is that planned business analysis governance, approved requirements, planned business analysis information management, or planned business analysis approach? I'm going to give you a 10 count. Okay, let's eliminate one.
Governance.
Information management.
Oh, I thought governance was the right answer. Whenever I see approvals, I automatically think about governance.
Well,
But
this
let's-
one says
let's
how they're
follow-
approved. So yes, it should point back to governance.
yeah,
Let's follow what
yeah.
follow the
So
what do we
we
think?
feel like governance is the answer.
Yeah, sorry, I jumped ahead.
It's okay.
I think
think
it
so.
is. I think it is because in governance you have the approval and prioritization.
Okay, so whenever I asked which one we're going to eliminate and you said A, I was like, are you sure?
No,
Yeah,
that's the
that's
answer.
why I jumped in. Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
governance.
Governance is responsible for defining how decisions will be made regarding all facets of requirements design, including making decisions and changes. Yes, Bob.
I just wanted to point out that the tasks are listed in each knowledge area in order, but they don't necessarily flow one to the other. They're mostly in order, but somewhat in parallel and somewhat independent. So, what I love the conversations you're having about the specific inputs and outputs of each one. And that's actually better than my knowledge of it as it stands now. I knew all this at one point. Thea has it all fresh. It's awesome.
You're a sweet man. Okay, planning stakeholder engagement in normal circumstances is a task carried out by business analysts. This task may be shared with which other project team member? This feels like a Jeopardy question. Would it be the project manager, the sponsor, the peers, or the business subject matter expert? So we're planning stakeholder engagement. Which one can share it with you? Let's give it 10. Okay, let's eliminate one.
Years.
C.
Sponsor.
Yeah.
B.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Think it would be A.
yeah, we go with A too.
I'll go with A.
Would go with
I
B.
think
The PM and BA are most likely to share
Very
identification and management of stakeholders, and so is the likely collaborator for this task. Remember, one of the PM's jobs, I think it starts in this task, is to help you get the access to the right people. If people are dodging your meetings, if they're not responding, you can sick the PM on them and say, this is a blocker. I need you to help me resolve. And it's their job to go to, oh, look, he's showing us the PMBOK. So the PMBOK even says it, right, Alba? It's the PM's job to help you do this.
That's
All
right.
PMs are not the same, right? But that's what the BABOK says. And they're usually really good at it. Paul is eliciting data requirements and discussing systems communication and how the two systems currently exchange data and services with his stakeholder. What principle is Paul discussing? So, data requirements, systems communication, and how they exchange information. So this is the definition of one of these things. Is it data migration, trans-system exchange, portability, or interoperability? I'm going to give you 10. Which one can we eliminate?
B.
Trans-system exchange.
Trans system, it sounds so official, doesn't it? But it's not real. It just sounds good. Okay. And what is this example of? Which one of these is correct?
D.
D. Yeah.
D is in dog.
Yes.
Interoperability is the ability of systems to communicate by the exchanging data or services. Portability allows data to be moved but does not imply the exchange of data. Important. This scenario appears interoperability, and data migration is not an exchange. It moves it from one to another. Exchange means it goes back and forth. So A to B only is data migration. Portability can be moved. Right now, I'm fuzzy on the difference between data migration and portability. Bob, can you tell us?
There is no real difference.
Well, that explains.
Portability is more general. It talks about apps and other things.
Okay.
So maybe website hosting or browsers or whatever.
Okay.
Do you think
Patsy?
of interoperability as integrations or interfaces?
Real-time interfaces, I would say.
You might use it with interfaces. Katya, do you have input?
No, I have a question actually.
Oh, you have a question. Okay. So ask your question.
Just like in the real exam, do we get any question from the glossary?
Yes.
Okay.
But it won't say what is the definition of it. It will
Okay.
say when this BA uses or the PM uses this term, what do they mean?
Okay. So just to
Um,
know that we have to study this chapter.
oh yeah, you have to say this.
Okay.
So the document that I put in our Slack of unexpected terms,
Yeah.
the document that has unexpected. I picked like the top 40
Okay.
things that I wanted to be sure you knew, but it does not exclude you from. You probably need to read through the glossary and be sure that you understand the way it's using the words.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Should say I spent decades writing real-time data exchange functions between different platforms, operating systems, physical systems, protocols of various kinds, and so on.
Let me mention that data migration is usually we're shutting this one down and we're moving the data over. You're just not going to go back and forth.
Cliff
Interoperability,
does a lot of that.
he does. He does. Interoperability is going to be almost any other kind of data exchange. And the reason for that is if I have a system, for instance, I'm sending records to a bank. I'm going to get something back that said that they received it. I'm going to get something back. There's going to be a report that says it came through successfully. There's got to be something like that. And almost all of our projects are going to have some kind of monitoring that give us some kind of status, which would create automatic interoperability. Let's go on. Megan is a business analyst for an organization, and she's coaching Lindsay, a new business analyst, on the importance of identifying and recording key dependencies between requirements. Which one of the following is a primary reason why key dependencies should be identified and recorded? Okay, let's stop. We're talking about key dependencies between requirements. Which task are we in?
Is it trace requirements?
I believe that's true.
Yeah.
Any other ideas? We think we're on trace requirements. Okay, that was what my belief was as well. So what's which of the following is a primary reason why key dependents should be identified and recorded? So the benefit of identifying key dependencies to help achieve efficiency by implementing related requirements at the same time, to determine who owns the requirement in project lifecycle, to identify the relative risk of each requirement, to identify the benefits of each requirement. Let's give it a 10 count. Okay, which one can we eliminate and why?
B, because who owns the requirement doesn't have to do with the dependency.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I agree with you. Is it anything about relative risk?
It's not within dependencies.
I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
I would have guessed A is the correct answer,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I
It is
think
A.
so.
It is A. Yeah.
Identifying, documenting dependencies assists the business analyst in sequencing project work activities to design and deploy the capabilities found in the requirements. It also assists the business analyst in correctly allocating requirements to solution components. Yes, Bob.
So this is not, sorry, this is prioritize requirement, not race. It's
It's
part
not,
of
well,
basis.
it's somewhat prioritizing. It's making
Yeah.
sure you do them in the right order. I was going to say there's a better way to phrase that question, but the answer or the explanation there gets at that. And you will understand that well, Katya.
I wanted you to note that this answer is actually pulled from two different chapters. So just know that we're going to see this type of thing again later because this all overlaps and weaves together. Okay, what are the inputs for approved requirements? So we know what task we're in. Verified requirements and designs, requirements and verified designs, requirements and designs, verified requirements and verified designs. So before I go to the 10 count, I want you to remember before you can approve requirements, what do you have to have, right? So let's go to the 10 count. Okay, let's eliminate something.
Requirements and designs.
Yep.
That's not
Yep.
specific enough for what we need, is it?
Nope.
And D, we eliminate. We do not verify designs.
Okay,
It's
so what's
A.
the correct
A.
answer?
A.
We verify requirements. We don't verify designs. We need verified requirements and designs to be able to approve requirements. So let's turn that into a story. You take verified requirements and you say, we have confirmed that this is what we need, and then the design for this is going to be over here. And you take that to the person who's going to approve your requirements. They have to understand it to the level that they need to be able to provide the approval. But they need both of those elements together, verified requirements and the design. Which of the following statements best describes a potential difficulty in prioritizing requirements? So we know we're in prioritized requirements. The project manager isn't fully involved in the project. That would be a difficulty, but maybe not what the BABOK says. Stakeholders may have difficulty in making any of the requirements a nice to have. Unknown project risks. Stakeholders use rock, paper, scissors to make decisions. I've seen it happen. Let's give it a 10 count. Okay, which one should we eliminate?
D.
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 D, that's an easy one.
And
Yeah.
A. We eliminate the A.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
that's not.
what do you think of C?
There is no unknown. The word unknown is very vague.
Well,
Right.
all
Because-
risks are unknown, right?
But
it doesn't contribute to the
Exactly.
difficulty in prioritizing the requirements, because you can prioritize something and then later find out that there's a risk involved. So
Absolutely.
kind of
So-
chicken and egg thing.
Do we like
think-
B?
I think B,
Yes.
because
D.
stakeholders will say everything is urgent.
must
Everything
to
is a
have.
priority.
Yeah, if everything must
Now,
to have.
everything is a must have,
Yeah.
and they'll have difficulty deprioritizing
Yeah.
requirements because they want everything.
I'm actually living that exact
Oh,
situation in my life right now at work.
Let me tell you what
Trade
I
off.
did. I had
Just go
13
trade off.
VPs sitting around the table and they said every single requirement is must
It's
have.
a must-have, 100% every time.
So
Then you say,
this worked for them. I turned to them and I said, that means that they're all equally low status, right? And they're like, no. I said, well, if they're all equal, they're low status. And
I
they're
like
like,
that
"No, we got
approach.
it worked.
I'm gonna have to try that for sure because I'm living that exact scenario right now.
you just
Um,
go, remember the Holy Trinity? Good, cheap, and fast.
That's right. Yeah,
Pick two.
exactly.
Pick two. Can't do everything.
Yes.
Yes,
The
Bob.
other way to say a thing is if everything is in emergency, nothing is in emergency.
That's right.
I love that. I'm
Yeah.
going to steal that.
Mm-hmm.
Hopper is a business analyst for an initiative. The organization is undergoing restructure. I'm sorry, I got to go back to what Bob just said. My brain just processed it. If everything is an emergency, nothing is an emergency. So that means that if we drop everything for this one thing, which is an emergency, but everything is an emergency, we don't have to drop anything at all because we can't do it all. We might as well
That's
stop, right?
Yeah. And that's
Thank-
what you experience, right? It's just like in mobility because
Yeah,
nobody can
it's
make a
paralysis.
decision. That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. I actually told them that 25% of each of their priorities had to be in one of the 4 buckets. And I used the Moscow on them. And it's like, okay, you pick which one goes in which bucket, and then we'll move forward.
Yeah, that's
Piper is
also
a
a good
business
idea.
Piper is a business analyst for an initiative. The organization is undergoing restructuring and introducing changes to the existing business analysis approach. So look at what we're at. We're not at the project level, we're at our work level. She has been asked to assess each proposed change. The result of her assessment must support the decision-making and change control approaches defined by which of the following tasks. So is this assess requirements changes, business analysis performance assessment, approved changes, or planned business analysis governance? I'll give you a 10 count. Okay, what can we eliminate?
Approved changes
C
and performance assessment.
and D.
Yeah.
No, I will keep.
No, I
I
will
think,
keep.
what about
Yeah, I
D?
will keep.
Yeah.
I will keep D.
Because
I think
they have
D.
to,
Yeah.
I do too. Because
Yeah,
it's
think D is
decision
better.
making and change control approaches.
it's not assess requirement change.
I think it's D.
The
Yeah.
governance process identifies the decision makers, the process, and the information required for making decisions.
Yeah.
So if someone is being asked to assess changes, we're in governance. If it's about business analysis performance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if y'all have ever experienced this. Have you ever had a stakeholder come to your desk and go, "Hey, I want to change that requirement that you talked about in the workshop," and they want to do it down, where nobody else knows, and it's like, we can't do that. I'm happy to take your information. I'm happy to put it through the process, but I can't just make the change. He says, it's just an Excel document. No, it's a trust.
That's right.
Akira is closely managing particular stakeholders who can impose their own requirements for how business analysis information should be managed during the governance process. Which stakeholders are they? So we know that we're in governance.
Hmm?
Are they sponsors, project managers, regulators, or domain SMEs? Give it a 10 count. Okay, what do we think about domain SMEs?
Nope.
Oh,
No.
How about regulators?
Nope.
No.
How about project managers?
no,
Nope.
No. It's sponsors.
I think it's sponsors.
I'd
Let's check.
say
Sponsors have the authority to
Yeah.
impose their own requirements.
Yeah.
Here's an example of a requirement imposed by a sponsor. The project will get funding because they arranged it. The project will begin here. I do want that project manager in it, and I want you to use that manufacturer. I mean, they get to do stuff like that, right?
Yes.
They probably help write the business case. They are imposing requirements that way, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
Stefan works at an IT shop in Vienna, maybe Austria, or one of the other many Viennas around the world. He is in charge of identifying and managing risks associated with solution design, development, delivery, implementation, operation, and sustainment. What kind of stakeholder is Stefan? So he's doing all of these things. He is a regulator, a project manager, a domain SME, or a sponsor. I'm going to give you a 10 count. Okay, which one can we eliminate?
Regulator.
D.
Regulator.
Can eliminate regulator,
And sponsor.
Sponsor.
Right.
sponsor.
Yep.
It's B.
And C.
B. I think it's C.
It's B, project
B.
I think
manager.
it's B.
Yeah.
The project manager is responsible for identifying and managing risks associated with the solution design, development, delivery, implementation, operation, and sustainment. The project manager is kind of like Batman. That goes fights risks. I mean, that's their job, is fighting risks. And we are the Robin and the Alfred because we're super awesome, making them
And the
look
only
good.
one implicated in all these stages of the project.
Say it
Like
again.
the project manager usually is implicated in every phase of the project
Yes.
solution
Yeah.
from the beginning till the end.
They are our partners,
Yeah.
equal partners, we are not subservient to project managers. We are equal partners. They've got a job to do. We've got a job to do. If either one of us doesn't do our jobs, the whole thing's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
When the BABOK talks about business analysis, it really hops in after the problem is defined and the project started, and really kind of ends at design. So it's mostly about finding out what's going on, finding out what's needed, and coming up with or facilitating designs that match their requirements. After that, the BAs around. They will do some limited testing. The BA role is a little more circumscribed than the PM, but it's more involved in the solution directly.
And communication and clarity and relationships. We're rock stars, guys. Brett has completed a review workshop meeting with the accountable individuals and have indicated their agreement with requirements. Where would Brett record this agreement? So what task is he in, guys?
Approve requirements.
Confirm elicitation. No,
Oh yeah, confirm elicitation.
isn't it?
Well, they have the requirements.
They have the
They're-
requirements.
Oh, that's true. Yep. So
They
we
are
passed.
in agreement with the requirements. I think we're
I
at
think
approve.
it's approve a
Yeah.
requirement.
Approval.
Okay, so in approved requirements, would he record this agreement in the decision register, requirements management tools, shared drive, or SharePoint site? This is one of those things where you got to read that sentence in the BABOK, okay? Give it a 10 count.
Know what I hope the answer is?
Okay, what do you think of A?
Possible,
It's possible.
Possible?
but
Yeah.
it's not official.
I see
Yeah.
head shaking
There is no technique called decision register, isn't it? Like
Nope,
it should be like
it's
a
not. But this doesn't,
Mm.
where it does not mean technique necessarily.
Mm-mm.
It's going to be
So
a
it,
document or a repository of some sort.
so it is B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You like
Yeah,
B?
it must be.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't
Lots
like
of
it.
heads
Next
nod.
word.
Yeah.
So this is the stated guideline and tool utilized to record requirement approval. So your requirements management tool can be very official. It can be Jira. It can be a SharePoint document that you use, but it's got to be some place where people can access it and you have accountability.
Yeah.
Approval of requirements and designs may be formal or informal. Which of the following refer to requirements that have been approved? So requirements that have been approved are WBS, milestone approved, statement of work approved, or requirements approved. I don't think y'all need a 10 count for this one.
Exactly.
Just tell me what you think the right answer is.
D.
D.
Approved and ready to use in subsequent business efforts are requirements that are in the approved state. Whenever I first saw this way of writing this, it looked very scientific to me because I've seen scientific notation, and maybe that's not the right way to say it, but it's like water in liquid state, water in frozen state, things like that. So I'm looking at this going, yeah, it was a science geek that did this one, man. I don't know. Which factor influences the requirements prioritization process? So requirements prioritization is the task we're in. The factor that influences it, is it project personnel, legality, system development, or penalty? Factor is a critical word here. Okay? Gonna give you a 10 count. Okay, what do you think of project personnel?
No.
Nope.
No.
Mm-mm. Nope.
Legality,
No.
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 system development.
No.
No.
Nope.
We're into penalty.
Yeah.
Yep.
1 of 8 factors. Penalty in prioritization is about understanding the consequences, or for instance, the penalty of not implementing that requirement. I think it was one of y'all that said that you've been in a company where they just accepted the penalty because it was cheaper than making the change. I mean, that makes sense, right? Stephen has conducted a number of elicitation sessions with a group of stakeholders from mortgage loan department and their requirements as part of a new project. How will Stephen determine when requirements elicitation from that business group is complete? So we know that we're in elicitation, right? Conduct elicitation. So the question is how will they determine that requirements elicitation is completed? When requirements from that group have a shared understanding, when stakeholders from that group have a shared understanding of the requirements they have provided, when no new stakeholders are identified in that business group to share their requirements, when business analysts have validated that all items defined in the scope of elicitation are completed, when all stakeholders from that group have shared their requirements. 10 count. Okay. What do you think of A?
I like it.
No.
You like it? Okay. What do you think of B?
No.
No.
Okay. What do you think of C?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
C,
that's a good one.
Yes.
Votes for C. Okay. What do you think of D?
No.
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 Okay. I've got votes for A and C. Cassie, can you tell me why you like A most?
Because I read it from the BABOK.
Oh, really?
That's
Oh, is that the right
cool.
answer?
How about
Okay.
C?
I think it's C. I don't know but
I'm
maybe
torn. I'm half
yeah,
half. 'Cause I like A
exactly.
as well,
Let's
but
test C. Defining scope of elicitation. Scope of elicitation is
damn.
important. Defining this allows us to identify when the elicitation activity is complete.
Yeah, can we know what is A where he read it?
The stakeholder can have a shared understanding of those requirements they provided, but there may be other requirements to consider that are in scope.
Right.
It's like all of our requirements are green. Nobody likes red, but you got to go look at some red stuff.
I feel
Mhm.
like I was looking at it from the point of view, because the way that it reads, it says when all stakeholders from that group have a shared understanding. And there can be times that, and I've been in groups where you will have a hung jury because they can't agree on, on the understanding. The interpretation from one person to the next on an any given requirement can differ and
Mm-hmm.
how they can see that. So like I feel like to me that's what turned me off from that one was that
Mhm.
getting all stakeholders to have a shared understanding
Mm-hmm.
is oftentimes not easy. But to your point, yeah, this is Babok world, so it could potentially be a thing. That kind of turned me off from it because all stakeholders sharing an understanding is like utopia, right?
It is. It is.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something that you can use to cure that problem. Talking about what the requirement is one thing. Talking about to measure success, what will success look like? They can usually get to that agreement and then work backward into the requirement.
Mhm.
So
I like
work
that.
on what it is you want. And one more thing, when you talk about all stakeholders from that group have a shared understanding of the requirements they have provided, let's think about a group of, say, engineers. A group of engineers, they're very likely they're going to be thinking the same. They have the same kind of thought process, maybe same type of personality, okay? So they're going to get some very engineering requirements put together, and they're going to say, yep, that's all we need. And nobody has looked at user experience or creativity or all the things that are not engineering, right?
Yes.
So you may have other requirements just because these guys think that they understand their entire ecosystem. They don't even see some of it. Yes, Bob.
Two things. One, engineers can be very different the way they see things. I've had all but knockdown, drag out wars with other engineers. Um, but the main thing I wanted to say was, completeness in any kind of situation is should be regarded as provisional. The way I write my iterative cycles
Mm-hmm.
in my process diagram as or life cycle engagement process means you can iterate within phases, but also iterate between phases, which mostly means going back and adding or modifying stuff as you learn more. So,
Mm-hmm.
completeness should often, sometimes you just have to say, okay, we're done. But you have to leave open the possibility of learning more later. But that doesn't change the correct correctness of this answer.
Let's talk about the scope of elicitation. Where do we get that from?
Well, the scope would come from the charter.
The scope of elicitation is in prepare for elicitation. It's the first
Yeah,
first element, right?
yeah. First task, no?
So
Yeah.
tell me if I'm wrong, because I don't know that I've ever said this out loud or put these thoughts together. So you have your business case, your charter, your scope of project, and
Mhm.
from that you create your scope of elicitation. What information do we need? And who do we need it from, right? I think that once you can say we have achieved our scope of elicitation that we planned before the project started, and we've evaluated since then because you learn things and you go, I need to update that.
Mhm.
Once you get that done, you can say, okay, I think I've finished my elicitation for this project. And then you get that validated with the rest of your project team. Does that make sense? Am I
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah,
wrong?
I called that the problem statement or the intended use, but it's expressed in the charter from a project management point of view. And it's the
Good.
project definition in another way of saying it.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
We're all on the same page. A prototype is that is used to explore the basic size, look, and feel of a project that will be manufactured without creating actual functionality is called which of the following? So this is important. Is it functional or not functional? So is it a functional prototype, a usability prototype, a proof of concept, or a form study prototype? I'll give you 10 seconds.
Hmm.
Okay, which one should we eliminate?
A.
A.
So it
Indeed.
has no functionality. It's not going to be called a functional prototype, right?
Mhm.
Mm.
Somebody said B?
No, eliminate
C.
D.
No, it is C, proof of concept,
I
no?
think
is C,
C is the
yeah.
answer.
Ah,
C is the answer.
Let's test it.
Wow.
Okay, so
Wow.
you get to learn something brand new in prototypes. This is called a form study prototype. It's a model that can be used to model a workflow or navigation at a high level. So it's used to explore the basic size, look, and feel of a product that will be manufactured without any functionality. I've done this with 3-ring binders. You print your screens with the buttons on them and the different screens, and you hang it over somebody's monitor, and you say, "So, which button would you mesh first? Which field?" And so they make it a touch screen so that you can see it and you go from page to page. There's no functionality there, but we get to talk about the interactions between the screens. You mash this button to go to this screen, things like that.
Mm.
Grant has just completed defining a governance process when a stakeholder who has been declining meeting invitations to define the process voiced some concerns to the sponsor regarding the team's decisions. The raised concerns have resulted in more issues and the stakeholders cannot come to a consensus. What consideration would help resolve this deadlock? So he's defining the governance process. Somebody's come up with concerns. They have more issues now. What consideration? Okay, would that be the plan prioritization approach, decision making, plan for approvals, or the change control process? I'm not even going to make you wait 10 seconds for this one. Tell me what we're going to eliminate.
I don't know what the context is. What teams what are they talking about? The concerns are regarding the team's decisions.
Okay.
Yeah, we
So-
eliminate
What
A
do you mean by the team's
Eliminate
decision?
A.
and we eliminate D, and it is concerns regarding it is B, decision making.
B.
I've got
No,
one
that
vote for
seems
B.
it seems very obvious.
Let's test it. Sometimes it's just that easy.
Yeah.
So-
Really, that's confusing.
So in your governance process, you get to decide who gets to make decisions.
Exactly.
Usually it's the sponsor. So if, these two stakeholders can't agree on something, you bring it to the sponsor and let them be the judge of which way you're going to go.
That
Yeah, but,
falls
I mean-
under HIPAA.
If you had
Right.
already defined the governance
Person's
process, that should
opinion.
already be answered.
It
Yes.
sounds like they just completed defining the governance process. And
Right. So that should already be answered if they define the governance process, I think.
they do have a decision-making process now, but they didn't all this time that the stakeholders been declining meeting invitations.
Oh.
They're coming up and they're saying, I don't think I should be able to make those decisions, right? And it's like, you haven't been coming to our meetings. You don't even know what's going on, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, Kathy is a BA and has just been assigned to work on a governance compliance project. Known as a doer, she's anxious to get started with her elicitation and collaboration activities, especially regarding an interview with a key stakeholder who will go on vacation in a week. Her BA mentor, Ellie, urges her to slow down a bit and complete some activities before conducting the interview. So she wants to conduct elicitation, but she hasn't done something that she needs to do. What does Ellie recommend that Kathy do before she starts elicitation? Does she need to understand needs, gather business analysis information, develop the stakeholder engagement approach, and the business analysis performance assessment? Prepare the elicitation activity plan. Develop the elicitation plan, elicitation results on confirmed, elicitation confirmed, business analysis information communicated, and the stakeholder engagement. Or does she need to understand the needs, gather business analysis information, and develop the stakeholder engagement approach? I'll give you 10. Okay, what do you think of A? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
It sounds good.
Keep it there.
Okay, we'll keep it there.
Keep it there.
How about this? Does she need to do this?
This
And is this the only thing she needs to do?
This is input, not the output
No.
for the elicitation conduct.
Well, that's what we're asking for, though, is what does she need to do before she starts elicitation?
But prepare elicitation plan, it has an output. So doesn't she take the output of the prepare elicitation to start with the conduct elicitation?
I like
Because
your
your
thinking.
output is a elicitation activity prepared. So
But she hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
She
hasn't
hasn't done
arrived
anything.
at that yet.
So okay.
She needs
Now
to do
I
the thing
understand.
to get the thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
she
in-
got handed this and heard that the stakeholder is going to go on vacation in a week, and she's like, I've got to go talk to him now. Has she even read the business plan? Does she know
Yeah,
what the need is?
So then it means B.
Yeah, I think it's B.
Yeah. So it is at the B.
Let's test it.
Oh, I think it sounds
I
good.
told you.
So
I told
this
you
is
it is not.
elicited input for conducting elicitation, but there's no evidence that she understands the need for the project.
yeah.
Has she developed the stakeholder engagement approach? And without the inputs listed in
Yeah,
this one would be
Oh, they got
she's
me.
shifting too far.
exactly. I knew it is.
So
Okay.
at the beginning of the project, it's critical for you to understand the needs. Then you gather your business analysis information, you develop your stakeholder engagement approach, and you do your business analysis performance assessment, and then you can move into elicitation. You know, whenever I first became a BA, I did not know about the IIBA. I did not know about the BABOK. And I remember the day I found out that the BABOK said that you could create a governance plan to break ties in decisions. And I went back to all the projects I'd had that I had to go through. What do you mean you two can't come to an agreement? And so we sit in meeting after meeting after meeting while they have a power play. If we had done that at the beginning, we could have said we got somebody that breaks the tie and do it diplomatically, but you still could get it done. Okay, prioritization is a critical exercise that seeks to ensure the maximum value is achieved from a change. As a business analyst, you might engage the following stakeholders to verify that the prioritized requirements will deliver value from a customer or end user perspective. Which stakeholder are you least likely to engage? So, is that sponsor, customer, implementation suite, or end user? Let's give it 10. Okay. Which stakeholder are you least likely to engage to accomplish this?
C.
Probably C.
No,
I'm thinking
We need, no, this
You need
customer,
the customer.
end user, we need customer, we
Oh,
need end
least likely
user.
to
Yeah,
engage.
least likely, I think, is
Yeah.
the implementation, because they have no perspective from an end user point of view.
Yeah.
I agree.
Let's test it. Implementation SMEs provide input relating to a technical perspective and can negotiate to have prioritization changed based on technical constraints. I'm going to read that again because it's not sitting right with me. So we're talking about prioritization. Does this make sense to y'all?
Yeah, isn't
Yeah,
the
we do not need the implementation. We have the implementation subject matter, but he's the least person to
Correct.
deliver the value. The value, it comes from sponsor. Definitely customer and user are
And
the last people to for the value because they are trying or testing the system, whatever. You have the sponsor.
Okay.
The implementation is not the one who deliver value because he
Okay.
doesn't know.
deliver value from a customer or end user perspective?
And this says that the implementation SME provide input related to technical perspective, not customer and user perspective, and can negotiate their prioritization change based on technical constraints. I think this is just trying to say they're focused on the technical, not the customer and end user value part. Does that make sense? Okay.
Right.
Thank you for helping me understand. Cato is working with stakeholders on a proof of concept to validate the design of a new system. What type of elicitation is Cato's team utilizing? So they're using a proof of concept. Is that research, collaborative, prototyping, or experiments? I'm going to go ahead and ask you to help me answer this one. What is the right answer?
C.
C.
D.
Okay, tell me why we think it's C.
Because they're saying it's a proof of concept, and a concept would be like the end result, which is a prototype.
Correct. Like what we think it might look like.
Right.
And who wants to?
I thought that was
argue for
part
D?
of experiments, though. Is prototyping a subcategory of experiments?
That's
Yes,
what I was
Ashley's
thinking.
right.
I would
Ashley's
go.
right.
Prototype is an experiment.
Yeah.
Experiments
Experiments.
involve identifying information that could not be known without some sort of controlled test. Experiments involve observational studies, proofs of concepts, and prototypes.
There are
It's
three
good.
types of elicitation: research, collaborative, and experiments.
That's right. You have been working on your project for 6 months and have finished eliciting all the requirements. A review is scheduled in 2 weeks to ensure you have a solid understanding of your stakeholders' requirements before they are baselined. What do you have to do at this point as an input into the review? So is it what do you have at this point is what it's asking. Is it stakeholder concerns, confirmed elicitation results, specified and modeled requirements, or unconfirmed elicitation results? I'm seeing lots of heads nodding.
Yeah.
Yep.
D.
Yep.
D?
Yeah.
D.
At the end of elicitation activities, the BA has unconfirmed elicitation results.
Yeah.
Okay, one more. There are several types of relationships that the business analyst considers when defining the traceability approach. What type of the following describes a relationship between the functional requirements and a solution component that is implementing it? Is that necessity, depends, derives, or satisfy? Let's give it a 10 count. Okay, what do you think of necessity?
No.
No? How about depends?
No.
How about derive?
I think so.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I think so.
Okay, and not satisfy, right?
No.
I think it's derive.
Okay.
It is satisfied.
Yes, satisfied.
Satisfy is the
Correct.
implementation element and the requirement going back. If you were to do derive, it's the requirement derived from another requirement.
Yep.
I'm not.
Think about that diagram I showed you in traceability. So, everything in a column going to the right satisfies something in the column to its left. So as you move from the beginning on the left to the end on the right, you satisfy things in the previous column. So that's what this is talking about. A design satisfies a requirement. A requirement satisfies something that you elicited, and something you elicited satisfies the business need or the problem statement or whatever comes first.
You're probably going to have, if your test was exactly like mine, and you know they're random, you're probably going to have probably 2 questions, maybe 3 on your test that you need to have this information in your head. Derive, depend, necessity, effort, satisfy, validate. Okay?
I'm
We
not
are
being
finished a
able
little bit
to
early.
memorize or to know the difference between those. Every time I do mistakes in those.
Turn it into a project that you've worked on. You know, this requirement satisfies this thing. This is derived by this thing. Turn it into something you can relate to. Okay, we're going to submit it. My goodness,
Ooh.
folks. I think we're ready for chapter 6. Okay, so let's talk about chapter 6 for just a few minutes. Then we're going to talk about applications. Chapter 6 has the singular goodness of being the only knowledge area in the BABOK that has only 4 tasks. Means it should be easier, right? Well, not really. Chapter 6, Chapter 7, and Chapter 8 are the hardest ones, and I'm telling you that not to scare you, but I don't want you to be discouraged later whenever it's like, why am I having so much trouble? I did good on 4 and 5, right? Well, these are known as the hardest ones, and they take a little bit more work. The way they're written is a little bit more conceptual. The way that the questions are written in the watermark are a little bit wonkier. I'm just going to say it that way. So we're going to run across some, and it's like, that's just not written well. I don't like it at all. It's got a couple of things that I think are interesting. This is the first time you see needs as an input for, I think, 2 knowledge areas, something like that. You are going to look at analyze current state, define future state, super critical. Collaboration is a big, big deal in chapter 6. In fact, there's going to be some areas it's like, who do you work with? Well, guess what? You get to work with all of the stakeholders in all of these. It's not like you only have a limited number. It's all the stakeholders, except for assess risk. You don't use the customer and end user, but the rest of them, it's like all of them. Makes it a little bit easier, a little bit of goodness there. One of the things I really appreciate about it is after you analyze current state, you define future state, you assess risks with your PM. Then you define your change strategy. How are we going to get from here to there? And that comes out with your solution scope. You've got your change strategy and your solution scope as your outputs there. So that's like marching orders. We can start development now, right? So this is the build up to actually doing work, making changes. Do you have any questions on chapter 6 so far? Okay.
Yep.
Let's talk about application. Who has completed and gotten their application approved? Anybody?
I have.
No.
Okay. So I hear that somebody has and somebody has not. Okay. I'm going to assume the rest of you have not. You don't have to start working on your application now, but I want to have this brief talk with you. We have 17 minutes. I want to have this brief talk with you before you get to the point where you're ready to work on your application. I have a spreadsheet that makes it a whole lot easier. But as you start gathering your information for your application, you've got to be sure you understand the requirements for applying for this test, which means you've got to have 35 hours of instructor-led training. This course, all the time that you're spending with me qualifies, but other things that you've done probably qualifies as well. You do need to get information about those. Let me see if I can find that spreadsheet real quick. Nope, let's do it this way. That's not it. No.
I can
Okay.
send you mine if you want it.
That's okay. That's okay. We will actually go through it together in a near meeting, and I'll need it then. I've had people say I have to get all of my time sheets from every project I've had over the last 10 years, you know. No, you don't. They don't care that much, guys. They're not going to check it that much. What we need for you to do is grab your resume and be sure that you have your dates on it and be sure that you have contacts for each of the employers. It can be a coworker, it can be a boss, because they're going to ask for who can I contact if I were to audit you on this? Who do I contact on this? So you need to ask somebody, you know, at the job that you were at 4 years ago, hey, I see you're still working at the company. Do you mind if I use you as a reference if they ask, right? So a way to contact them is good, an email. They sometimes, I think they ask for phone numbers too, but I didn't have phone numbers for all the people that I used. You do the best you can. Then you can put your information in at a company level. I worked at this company from this date to this date. That's what you need. If you did basically the same kind of work the entire time, if you did something very different for the first 2 years and then you did business analysis work for the last 6 years, you might want to split it up because the way that you're going to have to put it in, you have to put it in by the activities you did by knowledge area. That's one reason we wait so long to do the application because you haven't learned what all the knowledge areas are talking about yet, right? So if you did very different work, like you did PM work and then you did BA work, or if you did developer work and then you were a student, whatever, you're going to want to chunk those up. But typically, you're going to just say from the first time I worked here until the last time I worked here. And that's all you have to do. For your professional development things, this and your others, you need to, I'm sorry, for your companies, you also need the URL of their organization. So, you know, it's like, let me prove it's a real company. For your professional development things, you're going to need the same thing. You're going to need who was the instructor, what was the name of the course or the meeting. Do they have a URL? How can I contact them? For many of those, I use my own phone number because I did not have a phone number to give them. It's like, hey, I was there. You can contact me. And for those also, I believe we are going to be talking about, you're going to be telling which knowledge areas that you learned about in that course. So if you did something about elicitation, you know where that's at. If you did collaborative games, you can put that in elicitation because you usually use collaborative games for elicitation. That's all you have to worry about. Don't worry, don't stress yourself out. I have had people crying because they couldn't find all the details. You don't need to. So let's talk about being audited. Whenever I first started teaching this, about maybe 10% of the people were actually audited. Were they actually called to see, is this true? Did they really work there? Stuff like that. I haven't heard of anybody being audited for about 3 years at all, period. I don't know if they cut budget. I don't know if I'm just not hearing about it. But I would say that the chances are probably 10% that they're even going to call your references. Most people, they don't even call the references. So, but you do need to prime your references. You're going to need to have 2 professional references, either somebody you've worked with, worked for, or has their CBAP. That person, those 2 people need to have, you have known them, they have known you for at least 6 months. So you only have to go back 6 months. Typically, what happens if they do contact your references, they will immediately, whenever you submit your application, they will immediately send them an email. They need to respond to that email within a week. So that's really the extent of it. The email is going to say, Kasi said he worked at this company from this date to this date and this date to this date, and he took these courses. Is it true? And I'll be honest, I've worked for so many people that didn't understand what I did that I just had to say, yes, it's true. You can tell them it's true, and they submitted it. But sometimes bosses don't understand what we actually do. Do you have any questions about the application?
I have a question. Does the professional reference,
Yes.
can that be the same as like my boss from my last job that I'm also going to use, or would I have to just find somebody
Yes.
different?
It can be the same person.
Okay.
And it makes perfect sense that it would be the same person, right? I mean, they know you
Yeah.
and they trust you and you trust them. So yeah, that's absolutely fine. You don't
Okay.
have to worry about using somebody for a job and a reference. So you need 2 references. You need 35 hours of training. You need at least 4.5 hours of BA experience over the last 10 years. So let's talk about BA experience, just in case I haven't had this conversation with you. You do business analysis things even whenever you're not called a business analyst. You babysit your neighbor's 4-year-old. The child says, I'm hungry. And you say, can I make you a peanut butter sandwich? And they say, yes, with grape jelly, please. And you make the peanut butter sandwich and you hand it to them and you say, is that what you wanted? And they say, yes. Guys, that was business analysis. You just gathered requirements. You elicited requirements, right? You did a quality check on the solution. You did your solution evaluation. That's business analysis. As a student, as a manager, as an analyst, as a salesperson, you're doing business analysis. It may not be 100% of your job. So don't expect that you're going to get, from this date to this date, 8 hours a day. But you could say, as a student, a good 30% of your time is business analysis. What does the professor want? When do they want it by? What format do they want it turned in? You know, you're eliciting whenever you're sitting in class, right? You're learning, you're getting the requirements. Yes, Bob. Okay. So even if you haven't been a business analyst for, say, 5 years, you can use some of that experience that you had as an entrepreneur. So many things. As a volunteer for an organization, guarantee you walk into, say, Habitat for Humanity, and they say, let me give you instructions. You are now eliciting. Okay. Um, they say, I need you to do this. You're elicited. You're delivering, you're evaluating, is this stable enough? Does it meet the requirements? You just did testing. So think about all of the ways you've done business analysis over the last 10 years. So whenever you get ready to actually fill out this form, this spreadsheet, you can put in all of your work. Yes, Michelle.
So, question about the hours of professional development. I know you said that by going through this class, we would have enough hours for our professional development. Do we only list that one thing? Or if we have more than 35 hours, let's just say, like, you're attending, other Zoom meetings and things like that, other calls through, LinkedIn or what have you, when someone's facilitating and instructing, is that also considered professional development hours?
Okay, so I want to say yes, but There are some requirements for professional development. You have to have, it has to have learning objectives. You have to have some way of evaluating that you have learned the material. So, answer questions, do an evaluation, something like that. So just attending things, you can get some credit, but it's not as reliable. And I always suggest that people put in more information, more hours than they need. That way, if they ever do say, that one we're not going to allow, you have plenty more and you don't have to scramble to find something else. So you don't have to go overboard. You don't have to try to, document all your 1,000 hours of professional development. You have to, I would say if you have 50, you're probably healthy, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. When are we supposed, let's say, by like a timeline to have the application ready or to submit it?
It does not surprise me at all that you asked me that, Katia. You are such a strategic thinker. So the timeline to submit your initial application. So there's two phases to this. You submit an
Yeah.
application and then
Yeah.
you submit to take the test. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
To submitting the application, I would do it at least a month before you want to take the test because
Okay.
it can take a bit, especially if your references don't respond immediately or whatever. It can take a bit. And then they'll give you you've been approved. You'll get,
Yeah.
I think, Jenny, do you get an email whenever that happens?
An email from when it was.
Whenever you submit to take the test, your initial application, whenever they approve you, do you get an email?
I did not get an email back. All I got was on the screen. It says met, and a big check mark on each one of the rows. I didn't get an email.
Okay. So different
it means-
experience there.
So sorry, it means that they didn't contact the reference. When Jenny is saying check, it means that they didn't contact reference.
The check was on, did you put in enough hours for the knowledge area? Did you put in your 35 hours for PDUs? Did you have all of your information for your work history? There's a row for each of the requirements that they're asking for. When I'm saying
Maybe
that, yeah.
maybe this is check that you submitted all required documents, but it doesn't mean it's approved. Correct? Does it make sense?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Is it approved? Let me go look. I'll sign in.
That
Stand
would be
by.
awesome, Jenny.
Yep.
Okay, so you do have a portal in your whenever you sign into the IIBA, you can go into your membership and talk about certifications, and it will tell you what your status is for each certification, not taken or anything else. Kasi, you submitted something?
Yes, so I just share a screenshot of what it looks like regarding the checks. So pretty much it means that the application has been approved and the information that you input has been reviewed and approved as well.
Okay. Thank you, Kasi.
No problem.
So you know that you have to have a certain number of hours by knowledge area. For knowledge areas, you have to have at least 900 hours. Look like Kasi has a few more than 900. We're doing good. If you have ever submitted to take a test from the IIBA in the past, all that information is still in there. The only thing that you have as a limitation to that is it within the range of the last 10 years? Two things I wanted to note. If you have a job that you started, say, 11 years ago, and you try to put that in, it's going to say it doesn't know what to do because it's like, that's not within the last 10 years. So go back 10 years and put that as your beginning date for the job and then whatever the end date is. That way it can think. Don't break its brain. The second thing is whatever your ID says, your government issued ID says as your name, be sure it's the same as your membership with the IIBA, because whenever they send it to, this person is authorized to take this test, that's the name that they're going to try to compare against your government issued ID. It needs to match, or you're going to have challenges at the testing center. So, Katya, I said that you need to start your application at least a month before.
Yeah.
If you have time prior to that, that's great. So here's the phases. You put in your application information,
Yeah.
and they go through the approval process, and they let you know it's approved, and then you pay your fee to be able to take the test. And at that point, as soon as you pay the fee, you can go into the whoever it is you're going that serves your area for the proctoring, and you can schedule with them. So it's an outside company that they use. You schedule with them. You can look at a calendar. It's kind of like Calendly. It's like, oh, I'm going to do it on a Monday, and they've got this opening. So think strategically about how you want to take a test. I like taking mine on Mondays because that way I could study for the weekend and then take the test. I talked to somebody yesterday or today, and they said, I want to take my test on a Friday. That way I can have the weekend to either cry or laugh. It depends on how you want to do it, right? I knew that if I waited till Friday, my whole week was going to be, I've got to study. I wanted to have days to study. Yes, Michelle.
Okay, so if we can just go back real quick about the 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So were you saying that I don't want to put words in your mouth.
It's okay.
If I worked a job that, let's say I started my BA journey 20 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and let's say that within, it was, 11 years ago when I no longer had that job, but I continued my BA stuff in other capacities, whether it be a contractor or another job, do not include anything prior to the 10 years? Or was it, I can include it, but I got to kind of fudge the dates?
Okay. Don't fudge anything ever, ever, ever.
Okay.
Don't include anything that's over 10 years old because they don't care. They want your experience to be within the last 10 years.
Okay.
And in that time, it doesn't matter if you were a freelancer, a contractor, a volunteer, a parent, what. If you're doing BA work, you get BA credit.
Okay.
Okay. I've given you a lot. I realize I don't have the spreadsheet. I'm so sorry I don't have it to show you. But honestly, you're not ready to fill it out yet. One of the reasons I give you the spreadsheet is because it makes it a whole lot easier to do all the number calculations. Because my brain is like, I can't do number calculations and think about, which knowledge area. It's like two different parts of my brain. So I needed this. Also, whenever you start putting things into your application at the IIBA and you start a record of, say, a volunteer thing, a professional development thing or a job or a reference, you've got 7 days to finish it before they lock it down. And it's just too easy to start and say, I'll get back to it later because, I got to take somebody to the hospital or whatever. And you don't get back. And then it's a challenge. And there's ways around it. If you ever do have a problem with the IIBA, I'm going to give you a magic email. Are you ready for this? It's chapter@iiba.org. So if you, I gave this to somebody the other day, and her problem was she was trying to put in a job she started over 10 years ago, and that was the only thing. But I didn't catch it, and they were able to say, oh, here's how to do it. So if you're ever having a problem getting access to a test, with your membership, whatever with the IBA, that's the magic email. Okay. So after we finish chapter 8 and we've gone through it and we start doing all the knowledge areas together, or we start focusing on, the ones that y'all feel are problematic. After we get that point, I'll give you the spreadsheet and we will have an evening where we fill it out together, and I'll give you advance warning and everything. But I want you to know now, don't stress about this. You have obviously plenty of experience. And if you don't think you have plenty of experience, let's have a individual conversation and we can talk about what experience you do have that is applicable as a business analyst. Again, I never want you to fudge. I never want you to lie. I want you to be absolutely honest, but I've discovered people underestimate what they do. People underestimate, is it business analysis or not? I think you know that I'm a big proponent for business analysis because I think any change, any problem solved, you're doing business analysis. And life is full of change, right? So we're always doing it. Okay.
In answer
Do we
to your question, after I submitted my application, it says application approved. I have my professional development complete, check mark. Work history complete, check mark. References complete, check mark. Submit your application complete, check mark. The only thing I have left to do is pay my exam fee and schedule. The application requirements has a row and a line for each of my hours by knowledge area. Those also have the check mark that says met or not. Does that help?
That
Oh,
is exactly what we needed.
Okay,
Denny, you're a treasure. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay. Now, especially those of you who have been speaking up, I know how much you know, and I'm confident that you are going to be able to pass this test. And it doesn't mean those of you who haven't been speaking up don't know it. And just, I don't know. Okay. I have no doubt that everybody that's in this class can pass the test because I was able to pass it and I felt like a dunderhead sometimes. You know, I had to compare myself against Bob. So it's my goal that you feel successful and confident whenever you sit down at the computer to take your test. We're going to get you there. Thank you for walking with me through this journey. Let's hit chapter 6 next week. Okay? And if you do have the watermark book, I encourage you to look at both books. It helped me 6, 7, and 8. I needed both books. Okay. See y'all next week. Bye, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you. Good
Bye.
night.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Good night.
You.